One would have never thought that we'd come to a political convention with heavy hearts and a sense of relief that they didn't manage to kill him. They've tried to remove him from office through impeachment. They've arrested him, convicted him, threatening him with incarceration. And but for the flick of a head motion, he would have been dead Saturday in Pennsylvania. But thankfully, we don't have to talk about the condition of the country as a result of the assassination of the 45th president of the United States. Welcome to Milwaukee, where everybody who's anybody in the Republican Party is gathering and gathered for the Republican National Convention. The security here is intense. I'm talking major security moves in place. And we are, still reeling from the horrific image of President Trump with blood on the side of his face being hit by a bullet on a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. It is something that is unspeakable, unthinkable, and on the hearts and minds of everybody who's here. And I always make it a point to be responsible and to be mindful that we have to be careful over what language we use, what kind of rhetoric we employ. I don't know about you, but it's very hard for me to get real sympathetic to cries of tamping down the rhetoric when they've called Trump Hitler and Mussolini. I've got a story in front of me how former Senator Claire McCaskill, who's an MSNBC regular, recently declared on MSNBC that Trump is more dangerous than Adolf Hitler, that Trump is more dangerous than Benito Mussolini. Along comes some 20-year-old tortured soul, some miscreant, some twisted, warped, evil young man who evidently takes his dad's gun, climbs up on top of a building, and how he got away with that is going to be worth years of conversation, and fired shots at President Trump, injuring him, killing an excited Trump supporter, a proud husband and father who lost his life shielding his family from this monster's bullets. And now they're going to tell us that we need to tamp down the rhetoric. My instinct as a veteran broadcaster is to say, okay, I'm all right. How about it starts with you? How about you start lowering the temperature? You want to lower the temperature? Maybe it begins with President Biden, who is calling Donald Trump a threat to democracy itself. Let's do the whole what if? What if somebody, I don't know, a 20-year-old who lives with his mom and dad in Pennsylvania sits around and says, Mom, Dad, Joe Biden says that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Wouldn't you do anything to save democracy? If Trump is a threat to democracy, if he's Adolf Hitler, what wouldn't you do to stop that? That's where we are right now on July 15th, 2024. And I think it sounds sophomoric, it sounds silly, it sounds childish to say this. I'm going to say it anyway. How about you start? How about we'll tamp down the rhetoric when you start? We'll go if you do. And perhaps that's what it's going to take. I don't know. Perhaps that's what it's going to mean. When Democrats acknowledge they've gone too far in what they've done to Donald Trump and the way they've characterized him, then we'll be happy to tamp down the rhetoric too. Till then, take a hike. Now, I couldn't wait to get on the air Monday because I want to open up our phone lines, 800-655-MIKE. All this week, we're broadcasting from Media Row. We're situated in the Panther Arena, which is adjacent to the Fiserv Forum, where Trump will deliver his acceptance speech Thursday night. I have to tell you on a personal level, on a personal note, I have never been more excited to see a speech in person in my life than the privilege of being at the Fiserv Forum this Thursday to see President Trump accept the nomination to be the Republican nominee for the race to the presidency on November the 5th. I've been to a lot of exciting things in my life. I have been blessed to go to the Oval Office on a number of occasions. I've been to the World Series. This is my 19th political convention. So, I'm no newcomer to this game. And to tell you the truth, under ordinary circumstances, I'd rather not be here. It's a pain. It's aggravating. It takes an hour and a half to get in and out of the facility. It's hard to do a broadcast on Media Row. I'd rather be in the comfort of my own studio back home. I wouldn't miss being here for the world. I wouldn't miss the opportunity to put my eyes on Donald J. Trump Thursday night at the Fiserv Forum for all the tea in China. What a blessing it's going to be to get to see this man accept the nomination to be the Republican candidate for president officially here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'm going to share every bit of it with you here on the Mike Gallagher Show in the Relief Factor Studios. We brought the Relief Factor Studios with us to the Panther Arena next to the Fiserv Forum, Media Row at the 2024 RNC. Our number is 800-655-MIKE. Now, I want to start with you joining me with all of the emotions, all the feelings you have about what you witnessed Saturday night. We'll all know where we were when we heard that Donald Trump was nearly killed. We'll all remember the calls we got. We'll all take to our heart what could have happened. We are all going to remember that we almost lost him in that outdoor space in Butler, Pennsylvania. Had he not turned his head the way he did at the split second that he did, I don't want to think about it. I don't even want to think about what that could have been, what would have happened. I have absolutely no understanding of how anybody could have allowed this monster to climb up on a building approximately 130 yards away from where Trump was speaking. You could tell me till you're blue in the face about January 6th. Let me tell you something. We better have a July 13th investigation. There better be a July 13th hearing from now till doomsday, because this was a massive security failure. This was a massive breach in what should have been done. And there is no way that Donald Trump should have been in the position he was in that field in Butler, Pennsylvania. Continuing from Milwaukee, I have to tell you something. I appreciate law enforcement and honor law enforcement as much as anybody. And the reporting coming from Pennsylvania about the way the local police flagged the rooftop where the shooter was perched was a security risk in advance is so shocking and so appalling to try to wonder how in the world that kind of a breach could have occurred and how that could have been allowed. Speaker Mike Johnson told CNN that he's calling for a complete investigation and hearings to be held on the assassination attempt of Donald J. Trump. Here's what he said.
Obviously, there's a failure somewhere of law enforcement, unclear who at this stage, but the fact that a shooter was able to get a high position that close with a line of sight on the former president at a major event like this is shocking.
It is shocking, and I've called last night for hearings. We're going to do this as quickly as possible, get the answers that the American people deserve. What happened here? I mean, I think pretty clearly there was a security lapse at least, and we need to find out, for example, why were drones not used in the area? I've not gotten a satisfactory answer on that yet. I mean, that seems pretty obvious that you would do that so you could see people on rooftops. This one from the vantage point of the stage was just seemingly an easy thing to monitor, and they didn't. Of course, we've all heard the eyewitness accounts of people on the ground who saw a guy with a gun on the rooftop. Why wasn't it stopped sooner? Lots of questions. We have more questions than we have answers, but Congress is going to get down to the bottom of this.
And Congress better get down to the bottom of this. Congress needs to figure out how this kind of a mistake could have happened. And, you know, I'm listening to all of the conversations about DEI and too many female Secret Service agents. Frankly, I appreciate that criticism, but we tend to get swept away in a good guy, bad guy narrative. I don't think people care if men or women are protecting the President of the United States. You got to protect him. You have to protect him. And they did not keep him safe. And it's beyond appalling. Steve is in Michigan on the Mike Gallagher Show. Steve, welcome to Milwaukee and the Republican National Convention. How are you?
Hi, Mike. I just want to say I am totally outraged. My heart, I broke up. My heart is broken that someone would try to shoot the President of the United States. I just can't believe that the Biden administration would pull Secret Service from President Trump. He should have been protected more than they had there.
Mark, Steve, when I heard Benny Thompson, who was part of the January 6th witch hunt unselect committee, express relief that Donald Trump was okay, I went into such a blind rage, because he's the guy that wants to pull Secret Service protection from Trump to begin with. I think it could be argued to Congressman Benny Thompson, you got what you wanted. Well, I mean, if there weren't enough Secret Service agents to protect Donald Trump because people like Benny Thompson don't want to even give him Secret Service protection, why would anybody be surprised? Why would anybody be shocked at this? You're right. And it is a time of great introspection, and all of us need to have a deep appreciation that he's alive. And my gosh, you know, Dan Bongino on Fox News, he's right across the aisle from us. I just saw him come into the broadcast position here at Media Row. Dan he's a former Secret Service agent. And watching him on TV over the weekend try to restrain himself when you could tell he wants to jump out of his skin and say, this should have never happened. This should have never, and Dan's got all the expertise about how many yards away you are and how many 30, how do you get trained, and Dan spoke for every single American when through his lens, he was able to say, how could they have let this happen? Well, I would step up and say, some of them wanted it to happen. And I'm sorry, I don't know how else to describe Benny Thompson wanting to pull the Secret Service protection from the convicted felon. If you don't have Secret Service protection, he's going to get hurt or killed. And I will tell you this, and I'm trying to be as restrained as possible. You can have investigations and hearings and sessions in Congress about January 6th from now until the end of time. The investigation into what happened to Donald Trump Saturday afternoon in Butler, Pennsylvania, should dwarf any January 6th investigation. It ought to make the January 6th committee look like the Keystone Cops they are. There should be a serious, substantive, intelligent exploration into this massive security failure. We'll continue. We're on Media Row in Milwaukee, the Republican National Convention. Great to have you along for the ride here on the Mike Gallagher Show. 800-655-MIKE. I hope you join us. So I want to, hey, Will, get ready. I want to do a big round robin here. I want to go fast. 800-655-MIKE. We'll start with Don in Chicago. And I want you to give me your thoughts, your emotion, your feelings about the assassination attempt. Maybe you want to react to the news that the criminal case against him and the documents charges have been thrown out. Maybe you want to talk about the possibility of J.D. Vance being selected to be Trump's vice presidential running mate. So let's go. Let's get a bunch of calls in here. 800-655-MIKE. We'll start with Don in Chicago. Don, we're not too far from you. Welcome to Milwaukee and the RNC.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
So, among many other red flags that would indicate this was more than just incompetence by the Secret Service, one not being mentioned is for the 3 to 5 minutes where people were informing police and Secret Service snipers were lined up with the assassin, and everybody was essentially cognizant of at least a potential threat for that time. Why was there no attempt to cover Trump at this time?
So have you heard, did you hear about the local law enforcement officer who actually climbed the ladder that the shooter used to get up to the building? He confronted the shooter. The would-be assassin pointed his weapon at the officer, and the officer retreated, Don. And when he retreated, that's when the guy fired upon Donald Trump.
Agreed, but and it didn't happen right away. But let's just say they have all radios. Why wasn't there an attempt to cover Trump during this time period? It was a couple minutes where people were pointing and yelling, there's a guy up on the roof. Cops were informed. The Secret Service, you can see the video, were lined up right with the guy. Now their excuse is, well, we didn't know who this guy was. Well,
we thought he might have been one of ours.
Why wouldn't you at least take the precautionary measure to cover Trump during that time? They let him go up on the stage, and they gave the guy a lot of shots.
So let me ask you a question. Let me get to what let's cut to the chase here. Are you suggesting that quite possibly this was intentional? Is that what you believe?
Absolutely. I mean, you don't get into a position like that to shoot someone. It's the only perfect. It's the one perfect place in the venue where you had a headshot at Trump, and they didn't cover that.
And they didn't even cover it. I hear you. And Don, I'm not prone to conspiracy theories, but I got to be really honest. I understand exactly where you're coming from, and my worry is the same thing. I hear exactly what you're saying. All right, Lou in South Carolina. Lou, welcome to Milwaukee. How are you?
Howdy. How are you doing?
I'm great, sir. Welcome to the show.
Well, I was just listening to the last caller. It's an epic failure. I just want to say about praying for Donald Trump. I try to do it every day, but I recently had surgery, so I was kind of preoccupied.
I guess so.
Now, the reason I called was two things. First, I saw on the internet or on social media, and you can't trust a lot of that stuff, that the Secret Service sniper that killed him said he had him in his sights for over 3 minutes, but was not given the order by the Secret Service director to take the guy
I saw
out.
that too. I saw that too. I did see that too. But the problem, Lou, with a lot of these internet reports, and one thing we all need to embrace is understanding that what you see on the internet isn't necessarily so. After something like this happens, there's a lot of theories and a lot of speculation. You got to be really, really careful. I mean, listen, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has said there's going to be a thorough and massive congressional investigation into July 13th. There better be. There better be. The investigation, the left wants to squawk about January 6th. Well, we better move heaven and earth to find out what went wrong in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th, 2024, because it's inexcusable, it's unforgivable, and it leads Americans like Don in Chicago and me and many like us to say, could this have been intentional? Did they put him in harm's way on purpose? How can you not come to that conclusion? 800-655-MIKE. Greg's in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Greg, welcome to Milwaukee and the RNC. How are you, Greg?
I'm good. I was looking at what's been talked about already, and I can tell you I'm a hunter of a long time and a marksman. If the sniper had the assassin in his scope, he could see the color of his eyes. There should be no debate on who the guy was laying on his stomach on a roof. And so he's up there for 3 minutes, and he's not told what to do. There's that needs to be figured out. The only other thing is, how did the assassin know the time and place to get off the shot?
Well, and does that lead you, when Don said that he's suspicious that this thing happened intentionally, do you feel the same way?
Exactly. There was a mission, and the mission was carried out absolutely perfectly.
All right, appreciate it. Let's see what others say. I'm trying to get a lot of calls in here. 800-655-MIKE. Antonio in Phoenix, Arizona. How you doing, Antonio?
Doing well. Mike, I want to know, when is Joe Biden going to get charged with threatening a political candidate by saying when he tweeted he's going to put Trump in the bullseye. Time to put Trump in the bullseye.
No kidding.
What you got on that, Mike?
No kidding. Remember when Sarah Palin had a district, I think it was a congressional district, and she put a bullseye image on a map, and they said, oh, look at her. She's inciting. Biden literally said we need to put Trump in a bullseye.
Yes, sir, he did. So I think somebody needs to raise it up, and make that happen, Mike.
All right, good to hear from you, Antonio. 800-655-Mike. We're going to continue with your calls. We're having a very, very, very eventful first day. Not to mention poor Robert Haley making all the hamsters run on the wheels the right way and plug the red wire into the white wire. Tom Trotta keeps tripping over everything and taking us nearly off the air. Joey Hudson's just happy to be here, and I'm looking for a Diet Coke. We're in Media Row at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. We're going to be here all this week. I'm going to be here Thursday night for Trump's speech, and I may not be able to talk on Friday's show, but I'll be here, and I'll try to convey what it felt like to be in the room where Donald Trump delivers his acceptance speech to the throngs, to the thousands and thousands gathered here at the Fiserv Forum in downtown Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's going to be a good week. It's great to have you along for the ride all the way. The Mike Gallagher Show, on location.